Hi there, welcome back to the History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. Today we're going to continue Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks artwork, part 3. And I finished yesterday with some of her more like black and white themed artwork. And I want to preface this video with, again, any of the photographs that I show you are borrowed from the internet. I have none of her original artwork other than anything that's in a tour book, which isn't original, but, it's published stuff. So I do want to make it known that, there's plenty of websites out there that you can go and read some more about her artwork and such, but I just wanted to print up the pictures just to give you an idea and kind of compare it with some other stuff that I had. So just want to let you know that. So again, I started off with some black and white stuff, but in her 1994 Street Angel tour book, Stevie Nicks has these two amazing pieces of artwork right here. And this one is Firebird, and this one says, "She must be someone's baby." So I'm not sure that it has a title up here. It looks like it says something about Lily. But starting with Firebird here, again, I think that this picture here of Stevie, I'll put here under my thumb, I believe is Stevie beginning this work. You can just tell by the eyes here. So I think it's a real cool thing to see that Stevie's beginning it. I don't know what year this was done. There's so much little writing on it all over the place that it's really hard to tell. Stevie makes a lot. It's just so cool. You go through this, and like I said, every time you open it up, you're like, oh my God, what is this? You're getting the magnifying glass out and such. And even though I know I've looked at this and read some of it and probably deciphered it, I look at it again and I'm just filled with, again, all the wonder of what everything is on there. And how amazing would it be to have one of these pieces, an original. But here, like it looks like she hasn't even gotten the full circles. See if that's coming up in the, you can kind of tell here. I could be wrong, but I do definitely think it's this photo here. And again, I'm going to go back to some things that I brought up. I hope you watch my other two videos because there is a lot of really interesting stuff here. But again, I had mentioned how Stevie seems to be going through phases of drawing things like with really sharp edges versus rounded. And I hate to keep bringing it up again, but there is just a very, in my opinion, a very strong difference between the artwork that is drawn with, the sharper edges versus the, I don't know what I did with those pictures. So here, hold on. I just think it gives a whole bunch of, kind of insight, maybe for lack of a better word, or just a general, another vibe, but different feel to how she was drawing stuff then to now, or just, different phases of her career. I have nothing better to say than round versus sharp. I just don't really know how better. And you can clearly see, as I'd shown yesterday, that there's still so much imagery, definitely the faces and everything else is so similar. But I just find it interesting that so much of this is kind of feathery, like her shawl's kind of out and such like that. But then some of this stuff has more of the sharp backgrounds. And I just also wanted to show this again because it's just incredible. It really is incredible how much stuff there is in her work. And I also thought a point of interest was, when I go to show you Lindsay's work, I have no disrespect to Lindsay, and I'll probably bring it up again. I shouldn't be saying it now, but Lindsay just kind of doodles, in my opinion. It's definitely artwork. It's his, his personality and such like that. But what I find interesting about Lindsay's work to Stevie's, and again, you'll see Lindsay's probably on Monday, is that it's just, he's creative and it's time spending, but Lindsay is so creative in writing, in the sound in his head and stuff like that, and putting things down and arranging and such like that. So there's an intricacy that is to Lindsay. Mick Fleetwood, if everybody knows, did have dyslexia. I think that's right, with, and so he had a hard time writing his name and words and such like that. But think of how, the rhythm that this man has, just that he can, it's kind of almost like what is it? Trying to think of the compulsion or something where people, can draw, like kind of like Rain Man, but I'm not picking on Nick or anything like that. But it's kind of a symptom where, you can't maybe concentrate on one thing so much, but you can, completely pick up the tune, like everything like that makes sense. It makes sense in music. It makes sense in the rhythm. And getting back to Stevie, things like this make sense in her songwriting is what I'm trying to get to, the big point I'm trying to make. And it's interesting to me that Stevie is so prolific as a writer, and her lyrics can have so many meanings, and her lyrics can be interpreted in so many ways, and her lyrics can be in one song, and then she'll use the same lyrics in another song, and they have completely different meanings. So when she does artwork like this, and with all those little words and all those different little details here, the little, fairy here and the face up here and all the different stuff, it totally makes sense with the artistry that is Stevie Nicks. Whereas again, when you get to Lindsay, there's kind of doodling, because even though he's artistic and he makes these pictures, his mind is more focused on the artistry of song arranging and writing and instrumentation. I think that's the word. And Mick too. Mick, it's almost like a math thing for Mick, because the timing and such like that, and the beats and stuff. And he's certainly, I think Mick Fleetwood did a lot of, I know he did some artwork, but I know he really got into photography. And that's probably just a common sense, I would imagine. I would certainly see it that way, of just a focus and kind of a, triggering in on that and just capturing something, just, which if you had a whole, a prior video of mine, photographers hate the word capture, because, it's just funny. Never mind that. If you know, you know. Mick Fleetwood would go out, and especially because he lives in Hawaii, well, it's Maui. I forget what island he's on, but anyway, going out and just photographing such beautiful things of the island and such, and just really getting these kind of nature shots. But there's also I think, in Mick's photography, and maybe this week I can get some of his photography printed up just to show you again. I'd be borrowing it from the internet, but when you see his photography, it does kind of match Mick's personality. Like, that is Mick's. Mick is the leader of the band. He's the drummer. He's been the manager. He's been the one that recruits everybody and stuff like that. So it's kind of direct. It's kind of, there's a portion, there's a place and a portion, and he's there or he's not there. And in photography, it's kind of interesting to me, because again, I think that's kind of a thing. A photographer goes out and takes pictures. It's not like a drawing that you start and you continue working on. A photo is a moment. You grab that moment at a time. And with Stevie, she'll start this maybe at, in 1983 and doesn't wrap it up till 1994, because that is how she does. She writes stuff in her journals, and then she'll pull it back out and she'll recreate it and put something on, Sorcerer or something like that. Or what was the other one on Trouble in Shangri-La? But something, that's from the old archive that she's been continuously working on for so many years. And I just think about that with so many artists in general, that if you really do deep dive into their if you're a fan of them and you deep dive into their artwork or their other hobbies or things that they take an interest in, it really, to me, kind of personifies, and it makes perfect sense that that's what they do and how they do it, because it just seems to go each one. Christine McVie, seemingly to me, was definitely more of an artist as a whole, but I don't know that she really started things and worked on them for so long. She just kind of seems like somebody who had some free time, and then that's like what she's going to do. Like, I have a month's vacation, and in that month I'm going to read 3 books, or I'm going to put together 2 puzzles or something like that. Christine McVie seems to be very, again, in my opinion, straight to the point. Like, I'm going to paint this picture and I'm going to complete it, obviously in a couple days. But again, back to Stevie, we take something and we have something that she works on and cultivates and details. And, this little character could have meant something to her in June, but, come October, it means something else. So there's like a little detail in the writing or something down here. And all my opinion, which you can take or leave. But both of these photos are just, really gorgeous. And I thought it was really neat. This also kind of reminded me of this one. This is another one I want to show. And this one could be, again, that picture. I don't think so. What did I do with it now? I definitely think it is the one above. Yeah, I definitely think it's this one. Again, I could be wrong. But this is a very similar vibe to this one, I think. Except this part here is up here, which I think is interesting. Not that I think this one is the same as this, but just kind of that style of almost like somebody looking over you, or, Stevie loves the guardian angel theme, and it makes perfect sense. And this one, let's see if this one, so this one as well has, again, we have the detail here in the background, but then we have all this going on. And again, we have circular, round motions. And this one, I do believe, goodness, where is my, of course, I don't have that near me. Why would I do that? I cannot read this, but I can't read this at all. And it's not printed out really well, but I want to say that this is from 83, 85 as well. Maybe as late as 86, but I don't think so. Additionally, again, kind of on this note, with some stuff that's all spread out, so I apologize. There's ones that, again, kind of look like this. This is one of them. This one I also do not know the name of. And that is hand-colored by somebody else. I don't think the colors are exactly right to Stevie's specs. There's a young lady who collects a lot of the artwork online or in person, I'm not entirely sure, and she kind of hand-tints it herself to kind of give it its own vibe, and so it's not copied all the time, I guess. I'm not entirely sure. But I don't believe these are exactly Stevie's colors here. I think these are a combination of Stevie's and the lady who kind of photoshops it a little bit online. But again, a little similar, but then these start getting much more colorful. This one does. We don't have another one that's quite as colorful until later, but this is another one that's kind of an in-between, where, you know, it could go one of two ways. It could kind of stay that muted color, or it could become very, very bright. And this one, I believe, is called Homeward Angel. And it looks like it was done November 22nd, and I can't read the year. 80, possibly? It would seem, again, there's just, I don't know. Is anybody with me on this? It just seems that there's a certain style that's like, you know, 79 to 85, 86. And then in later years, it just seemed, like I said, to get that. I think that's why I keep bringing it up, is that I never noticed again until I started doing these videos that there just seems to be a very stark difference. It's totally Stevie. I mean, the artwork is all Stevie. It's completely, it's you know, somebody who was maybe never familiar till they watch this video. Now when they see something, they'll be like, oh, that's totally Stevie. You can just tell. And, but I hadn't noticed those things. Again, just, I always pictured Stevie's work as so circular, as so, you know, just all these things, and kind of ethereal and kind of floaty, and like chiffon, or like, you know, again, that stage persona and that kind of imagery of dreamy and floating, stuff like that. And then when I saw, again, the things kind of with sharper and geometric shapes and stuff like that, I just thought that was also kind of a whole different state of mind. Now, I don't want to say, you know, pre Betty Ford Stevie or after Betty Ford Stevie, but, you know, our minds do interpret things differently, and our minds are literally altered by the substances that we're taking. And this is not a negative. I mean, I hate to say it. I'm a terrible person for saying this, but I love pre-Betty Ford Stevie. I do want her to be unhappy or a wreck, but there's something about the tortured artist and the, you know, the rock and roll habit and stuff like that. I mean, she's clearly inspired and gave us wonderful work. So I'm not encouraging her to do that, but I do like those times, because all the stuff that you see before me is what we got in those years. And then I love everything afterwards. It's just, they're two entirely different people. I, for one, did stuff when I was much younger, and I have no regrets. It is what it is. That's who I was then, and this is who I am now, entirely different people. And I noticed that little things about my way and stuff like that, for better or worse, but still are different now than they were then, the person I was then. So again, it just interests me that possibly Stevie's work, you know, took a different shape, and just kind of her ideas, or her visions, her crystal visions, see what I did there, were different. And it was just something to take in. And again, I repeat myself bringing it up, but I thought that was kind of interesting. Sticking with this, kind of getting, you know, into the, and, you know, here I say pointy and non-pointy. This one was, it's signed by her, and there's some names. It says Kona, maybe. And I want to say that this one was also, I want to say that this one is like 88, but I could be wrong. But this one is kind of, again, changing, and I think I might have shown this yesterday, but this one is kind of getting more into the, let's see, which one did I show? There's that other one here. Kind of getting into more like this. Yeah, I did show this. I apologize, because this one really reminds me of this one. So I think I did mention that. Yeah, I'm sorry. And like I said, Stevie finished this one 2006. So I don't know. I think I also don't know that Stevie was doing that much painting. I imagine something she'd never give up, but I also just my impression is that there was a lot of time journaling, you know, that was more her release, for, you know, kind of therapy, than drawing. I'm not saying she didn't, but it seems like she would probably doodle more than really concentrating on a painting. Again, that's just me. Probably from about 89 to 92, maybe 94. It's hard for me to say. It's just a guess, which is something I've kind of always thought of, because they're, I'm only seeing what I know about. I only see what I have in front of me, or what I found online or heard from other people. But it does seem interesting to me that there's kind of a gap that I see from what's been released, or what she shows in her tour books and such. So yeah, this was another one that was kind of cool. These were both kind of unusual, and again, don't know the names of these. I don't think either one has a name. And I think if you saw in my Wild Heart videos, there was one where it looked like there was a show or something of Stevie's artwork, and I want to say it was either this one or this one. But these were two interesting pieces that I think were kind of bookends. They just kind of, now these have their own vibe, and I think that they're very similar and kind of go together. And these look very Stevie. This almost looks like it could be a nod to the Belladonna album. Even though it's not the same pose, but kind of the hair, the capes, the kind of the surrounding. And this, to me also looks like a Stevie, kind of like in a Robin or one of the girls or somebody like that. It just really reminds me of like Friends and certain times. I mean, this could fully be a Stevie Nicks outfit. I can even almost picture a photo that this looks like it was taken right from. But very different for Stevie to do, which is also why I always wondered about that one that I told you guys yesterday, that I was never sure of if it was her, because I don't see Stevie really getting intricate on like details like arms, legs, and stuff like that, which is always, the body is usually kind of, again, ethereal, almost kind of ghost-like or angel-like, right? So that's why I thought this one is kind of weird, but this one is totally Stevie. But if you see on this one, the woman is completely covered, so there's really no arm or leg. But then this one, you see more of that, and it's unusual to me for Stevie. You'd see more things like this. Now, obviously, she's, copying the boots, including the laces, everything like that. But Stevie tends to draw more in the kind of, ethereal, again, the, kind of floaty in the long dress and stuff like that. So those are some today. There's still a handful more that I got to show you. And again, we have the Lindsay and the Mick stuff. I will either wrap it all up Monday, or you'll have to go Monday and Tuesday. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope everybody has a great weekend. It's Oregon, and we're finally getting all that rain that we were supposed to get for the entirety of winter. We're having it packed into one solid week. So it's been a really special week. It's going to be an even better weekend, said nobody. So I love it. I love staying at home, and but I have errands to do this, Saturday, so I get to drive around in it. But otherwise, it'll be really nice. Hope everybody's safe, enjoys himself again. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you next week. Bye.